Hello, and welcome to How to Create High Impact Learning Experiences. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ariele Krantzow. I am a content marketer at Northpass. Northpass is a learning management system that helps you make the best learning programs for your customers, partners, and workforce. I am super pumped to be here today with all of you, speaking with Mark Kilens, who's the CMO of Airmeet and really a true rock star in the world of creating online learning experiences. Mark, anything you want to add there?
No, yeah, thanks for having me. Look forward to this conversation. Love the partnership. Been at Airmeet for about 6 months. Hopefully, you folks enjoy the Airmeet experience. We're lucky enough to be hosting this mini event today. Hello, Amy from Boston. I'm just north of Boston. I'm in Newburyport. Before Airmeet, I was at Drift. Let me know if you know about Drift, if you've used that company's technology before. And then most of you probably know about HubSpot. I was at HubSpot for 8.5 years. My claim to fame at HubSpot, I guess, is I kind of initiated and kicked off what is called HubSpot Academy way back in 2010. Started as an experiment. So 2010, now I think about 500,000 people get certified every year through HubSpot Academy. It's a really proud accomplishment for me because it's all about impact, right? I think the reason why we do learning and education, Ariele, like most of us, is all about like the impact you can have on people and what that does for them personally, economically, their businesses. So excited to be talking with you all today, and hopefully I can share some kind of nuggets and past experiences that you can take with you.
Yeah, I'd say that that's an experiment gone right. For sure. And we're all, I think, in the learning community and the customer education community, so grateful that it was started, someone thought to do it and did it as well as it's going. And, we talk with the current HubSpot Academy team all the time, and it's definitely an engine that does not run itself. It takes a lot of people and a lot of work. And I know that there's a lot of people really just at the beginnings of their building out their academies and building out their learning programs. So I'd just love to going to pop up a poll here. I just wanted to know for everyone on the call, like where are you in the process of creating your learning program? Would definitely love to understand that.
Votes are coming in live. Have an Academy is in the it's tied now. Just trying to think about it with Have an Academy live and making the best out of it. Look at this.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah, I mean, Academy started as an experiment. The founding team was 3 people, and now it's about 60 people. And Courtney, who joined the team, oh man, I don't know exact year, but 2015 maybe, 14, 15. She's now the director of it. She's doing a fantastic job. It has, obviously content, education, certifications, different programs that are part of it. We create, so many cool things you can do when you start to show some traction from the business side. And really, I think education, from a business standpoint, is key to creating long-term durability and like an ecosystem. It doesn't have to be like a huge ecosystem, but, education is all about, self-improvement, I think. And it's about helping people get better at something, learn something, and then apply that thing. And what happened at HubSpot and what happened a little bit at Drift is education really helped us create a lot of partnerships with certified trainers, our channel program, partnerships, within the business when it came to us, working with other teams to teach people things within HubSpot from an employee standpoint. So I think it's a catalyst, and when used correctly and you can measure the outcomes of education, you can create these high impact learning experiences for, of course, the learner, the person, the person, who's doing the teaching, but also for the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely from my perspective, I've been involved in some amount of learning, doing webinars, live events, creating online courses, creating in-person courses. I'm actually an adjunct professor at a school. And so learning is so important, and making making experiences that people want to take and people want to continue engaging with is something that it's not rocket science, but there is some amount of science to it. And there is some amount of keeping people excited about what you're doing. And there's a whole science behind how to get people engaged with learning from the little tots in pre-K all the way up to adult learning. And I think in our world, obviously, people talk a lot about, how do you keep adults engaged in learning? How do you keep someone engaged in an online event? How do you keep people engaged in an in-person event? Because yes, we love having, online academies do amazing things. You could do so many things with it. And there's a lot of different ways to supplement that as well. And so just want to back up a minute just to sort of let people know a little bit about what to expect today. So we're going to continue our conversation here, of course. Then we're going to actually split into 2 breakout sessions, one led by Mark, one led by myself. And Mark's going to be talking more about live events, and I'll be talking more about how to create engaging online academy and online courses. And then we're going to meet back here in this main room and do a live Q&A. So we're going to have really a lot of fun, a lot of things to learn today. And so hopefully you'll leave here today with a full understanding of how you can make high impact learning experiences. So one thing I think that people get really, just stuck in sometimes is when you're doing some sort of event, whether it's an online course or whether you're just attending a webinar, or even in in-person event, a lot of the time it's kind of boring and you kind of feel like you're doing the same thing. I feel like I've clicked through so many online courses just going like, when can we be done here? Or even in the middle of a live event, you're just sitting there, everyone's sitting there on their phone and no one really cares what you're saying. Obviously, as someone on stage or creating a course, you want to avoid that. So what are some of the mistakes what do you think some of the big mistakes that people make when they're planning these learning experiences?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'll give you a recommendation that I cannot stress enough. I learned this early days with HubSpot Academy, and it's carried me through my last 3 companies. The most important thing you can do when looking to build out your education team, your marketing team, is hiring. You have to hire people that are super passionate and excited about the thing you're going to be asking them to teach, create content about, get people engaged about. Passion is infectious. It really is. You can't really fake it. You can only fake it for so long. And if you don't hire correctly, your content, your learning, doesn't matter if it's on demand, live, right? All the blended learning approaches you can use today just will not be as good as if you did hire someone who was super excited about the topic and themes you want them to teach about, who is invested in it in a personal way, right? Who has like a personal kind of background to education, right? Like I don't have a classical education background, but I love helping people and teaching people. And I'm a super curious person and I love marketing, obviously. So when you put all those things together, you kind of got HubSpot Academy, right? At the end of the day. So I always hire for character, train for skill. And so if that means you need to hire a marketer who has, or a person who has a ton of experience in this thing, but does not have a traditional L&D background, learning background, hire that person and figure out how to train them on how to be a better teacher maybe. But it's much, much more important to have a group of people, both internally and externally, who are these subject matter experts, who are that really high passion, high energy type of person. And then you might have 1 or 2 people to help them take their knowledge and experience and wisdom and structure it in a way that's actually impactful for on demand or live, versus trying to find both, because the both is almost a unicorn. You'll never find both. Yeah. So I really think like Kyle Jepsen, right? I hired that guy, right, because of his passion. I vividly remember interviewing Kyle Jepsen, it must have been 6-7 years ago now. He was an BDR, SDR in the sales team, had very limited education background. He was just super passionate about sales. And look how did that turn out, right? Kyle's amazing. So it's a great example, Audrey, right? Like the other thing I'll say is you have to make sure that you're really thinking about the person you're trying to teach. And it's harder these days, right? Because you're not going to be able to do all of this at once, but you really need to create a blended learning model, and you need to get to the point. One of the most important things you can do with your learning development teams, instructional designers, the people creating the education, is get them super good at writing conversational short copy. The way in which you teach these days has got to be, like I said, to the point. And if you have a lot of fluff in there, if you're just doing stuff because you feel like it's necessary, but it's not really adding any value to the student, no good. So along with it being great at copywriting, always doing backwards planning and starting with the end in mind is my last recommendation for right now. It's like thinking with the end in mind, right? The student will be able to, right? The user will be able to ... right? And then fill in that next verb with something from maybe Bloom's taxonomy, and really make sure you're nailing what these people are going to be walking away with. We did this for this presentation today. Like we have a 3-page prep doc that is designed to help you folks all get to a specific level of understanding something. We're not trying to help you master anything, right? This is more about remembering something and understanding something. And we designed this webinar learning experience with intentionality. So it's about being intentional. It's about creating really short copy, and it's about making sure you hire people that have the passion and the desire to keep learning and learn from other people, and kind of create that vicious loop of excitement, right? His excitement is infectious, right? And you can probably tell from me, I'm pretty excited about this stuff, right? Because I'm leaning in, I'm not like looking back. I'm like, my voice is up. So get good at recruiting and get good at hiring. That's my biggest recommendation.
Yeah, I cannot agree with you more. I think one of the things that that we always talk about and think about when we're even writing. I mean, everyone here has been hired. We have our job, and so hopefully we've all been looking for the right people. And not everybody has a whole team and a whole budget to hire even maybe one other person. A lot of people are doing it themselves. And that's, we experience a lot on the Northpass side of these sort of one-man bands or one-person bands these days, who can really take something and run with it. And if that person is not excited about what they're doing, you can tell. And you can tell in the content. You can tell even if it's written copy and someone's just reading something and it's just a short thing that you just want to go from page to page to page. You can tell when someone's excited about the thing that they're writing about. Even if you go and you're reading somebody's blog or a knowledge center, even the most, things that seem kind of trivial, if you can tell from the delivery and from the thing that you're reading or experiencing, if someone's excited about it. And so that is so important to make sure that the right people are doing the right things and that the person creating the content is excited about it. And then if we could just break it down a little bit further in terms of really more in sort of the creation of the content. You have this person who's really excited about creating this content. A lot of the people that we talk to on a regular basis, and even on our, in our poll, we had a lot of people who were really just starting out. It's like almost 30% were just starting out. And so just understanding from the beginning, there are some things that I think from my perspective that I always talk about, and in our, on the Northpass blog and in other content that we create, is the idea of really making it, and you said small conversational content, right? Like short videos, short audio files, short sections, and this idea of one idea per module or one idea per session. You want to just dive a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, it depends on who you're teaching, number one, right? And so, I always say education is just content that's packaged in a way that helps someone get to an outcome. Right? So like the question then is, who are you trying to teach and to what degree are you trying to teach them to? So I think that's the key, right? So, for us, with HubSpot Academy and like Drift Insider, it's been a lot of like on-demand video-based content, self-paced, because that's kind of like what the marketing persona likes to do. But what we've also learned is like, people are craving more human connection than ever before because of the pandemic. So things have shifted, right? So I think more than ever, you need to have both on-demand content that is bite-sized, digestible, and if it's not like bite-sized and digestible, you got to make it super entertaining. Like if you watch Kyle Jepson's class, let's go back to Kyle. He can captivate you with 20 minutes. But, him, building that 20-minute class, that probably took 50 to 100 hours to build. Because it's that much thoughts in it, right? He probably started with 60 minutes of content, because I know that's what we used to do, and we would cut that down to 20. So that's another like just pro tip is like always go long, then cut down. Don't try to start short. That will never get it done, in my opinion, right? You always want to edit to the point where then like, great, like I feel like we have something. And a great tip on how to do that in a more real-time way is to do things like this, live events. Like imagine, Ariele, like you wanted to create a class about how to create high-impact learning experiences, but you want to create a 10-minute version of this. Well, we're testing content right now over the course of 45 minutes. Do something live. We did this all the time at HubSpot Academy and Drift. Test it live, listen to it, structure it up, and then now you got maybe 5 or 10 minutes, right, that you can work with and do high fidelity, pre-recorded content that's on demand, right, and get that down into 4 1-minute segments that make up 5 minutes, right? So I feel like, the key is, like I said, intentionality and like really thinking through what you're trying to have the person end up like at. Like, are they trying to remember something? Are you trying to get them to understand something? Are you trying to get them to create something? I just love Bloom's taxonomy. Like, let me know who else loves Bloom's taxonomy. But like, Bloom's taxonomy is great, and you can align all the different ways you describe how someone can achieve a state in Bloom's taxonomy. Through that, a person will be able to ...
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't agree with you more. I think it's really hard to create short content, especially as a writer. Everything always starts out bigger than it is because you don't have that solid idea until you get everything out. I think even somewhere I along the way, I learned that when you're writing like a subject line for an email, right? Can't write the first one that comes to mind. I think someone said like on average, like if the 20th one you come up with is the right one, or like write 20 and one will be the right one. And so, as marketers, we don't always have time to write 20, but, it's the idea that you're not just throwing out your first version of something, that it's just iteration. And, I think that's the way it is for live events. And it is that same way for either pre-recorded events or online courses, really anything like that. And so I think now's a really good time to kind of split off into our breakout sessions. So everybody who's on the call, you're going to be able to pick one of our breakout rooms. You can either join Mark's breakout room, which is going to be about creating engaging virtual experience live events, and then you can join our session that's going to be on online, creating engaging online courses. And then after those are over, that'll be 15 minutes or so. We'll come meet back here, do a little recap, make sure everybody, even if you went to one, you can get a little bit of the other, and that'll be great. So
yeah, so just to give you heads up, Ariele, because we have so many people in this session right now, which is amazing with 100. We only right now have the rooms set up for 30 people each. So it's going to do 4 rooms. So we could either not do this and just have the conversation live here, right? Like, or break out into 4 different rooms and each one of us takes a room. It's your call on the spot. I'm putting you right on the spot right now because there's so many people, 100 plus people live.
I am so happy to do it just live here. Live convo, stay live, live combos. All right. Look at that, everybody. Cool. So I'd love to, why don't we just hand it over to you, Mark, and why don't we just kick it off with, let's go dive deep a little bit into just how are you thinking about live events, and what do you do, and what are the sort of best tips for creating live content?
No, I mean, I just talked a lot. Let's go the other way. Let me bring the other people on stage, and I'm gonna bring Pete on stage. I'm gonna bring Norm on stage. Just here we go. They're coming live right on the stage. I want to start with this, all right? Because I just spoke for like 20 minutes. You and I just had a conversation.
All right, so I'm just going to introduce the rest of the crew. So we have Pete Richardson here. He is product marketer at Splash, which is a Northpass customer, and he's actually really set up the entire learning experience for Splash Academy. And so really excited to have you here and really learn about all the experiences you've created. Then we also have Norm here, who is a CSM at Northpass as well. And he's helped probably tens, at least 50, I don't know how many, I can't even count, helped so many people set up their academies. And so he's kind of an expert on that side. And so I'm just so grateful for both of you for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Ariele. It's great to meet everyone.
Yeah, thank you. So Pete, would love to know, just kind of take us back at the beginning. Yeah. Splash has done a lot of really fun things with their academy, with getting people engaged, even before there were sort of these engagement tools within Northpass, within the learning platform. I'd love to just get to go like all the way back, and like when you were starting out, when you were bringing those learning experiences to customers at the beginning, like what was that like? It's a really vague question, but
yeah, no, let's take a shot at answering it. So Splash, for those who are unfamiliar with Splash is an event marketing software that allows brands to power the digital side of their events, from event registration to email communication to on-site check-in. And for this reason, there's a ton of different features in the platform, which makes it incredibly challenging to teach and educate new customers on. And as we all know, every learner is different. So we kind of had to figure out on the fly the best way to create engaging content for everybody all at once. In the very beginning, we were doing a lot of live trainings. We didn't really have any on-demand content. We were doing, there was only 3 of us doing about 4 trainings every day for about 2 years. It was as exhausting as it sounds. So we had to figure out a way to start recording ourselves. And those started as kind of Mark was kind of alluding to in the beginning of Airmeet's demos, where they were an hour long, maybe longer. And it was really, we weren't even on camera. It was just kind of our voice over the platform. And man, was it boring. So we started to figure out that we needed to start to develop that human connection, started recording ourselves, started to invest in, actual studios and actual real cameras and better advanced editing software and producers to actually figure out ways to consolidate the information where it was still very interesting, even though you're learning a ton all at once. So from that time, migrating on to Northpass has enabled us to create multiple universities, one for our internal team to kind of onboard new team members onto our own platform, and then one that's a little more, let's say, sexy to the outward facing customers. And that's where we have kind of, the ability for people to kind of go through a course really quickly if they want, or they can take a longer version if they want to dive deeper into a certain topic. They can kind of complete things as they go, and everything's kind of connected into Salesforce, so our CSMs can kind of keep track of who's actually completing the courses. And then at the end, we found a huge uptick in engagement once we started rewarding people. And either it was rewards in terms of a $5 gift card to Starbucks, or if they just sent a picture of themselves with their actual printout of their certificate that we've created for them, for whatever reason, they loved bragging about it on social media. So that kind of helped them start to, get more of their team involved and more of their team kind of learning the software at the same time. So it's been a long journey, but it's been a great experience. And as Mark said, I'm not an educator by trade. So we kind of had to figure out from a product design perspective of knowing the platform, how to get the right people in front of the camera and teaching the courses to make it all kind of one big happy package.
Yeah. I think when we had our initial conversation, I think maybe even before that, I had seen a lot of these photos of people just holding their certificates or like selfies with their laptop screen. And yep. I think it's amazing for people to be that excited about taking an online course. So there's got to be something that was like in that course that got people so excited to be so proud of it when they finished it. And if you could tell me a little bit about like developing that content. I know you have like the shorter courses and the longer courses. And can you explain a little bit about how you actually develop that content to be, to really like get at people's core?
Yeah. I think, in the beginning we would ask like 3 or 4 questions at the end of an hour-long webinar or something like that. And the engagement was super low and a lot of those answers were incorrect, unfortunately. And we were finding that if we were starting to cut videos down to, let's say 2 minutes to 5 minutes, and then immediately asking quiz questions throughout the course, that was helping people retain the information a lot more effectively. We did, sorry, I'm losing track, but what was the second part of your question, Ariele?
So it was, how did you actually like figure out what sort of content was hitting with people? And so I think you were getting there.
Yeah, I mean, we have, like I said, it's a feature creature over here at Splash. So there's a lot of different things and a lot of different users within the platform. Some are actual designers that specifically want to learn about, actually designing in the product or designing emails, let's say. And then others are just there to kind of manage their team. And so they're more interested in the team manager portion of our product. So figuring out, okay, we can offer a broad range of courses, but then we can start to effectively figure out how to title them. So instead of just saying intro to Splash, we were saying the perfect recipe to build your team. And that was upping engagement on that sort of thing because people like recipes. They like the word playbook a lot. They like the word blueprint. And if people are just like, give me exactly what I need, and we can hand that to them on a silver platter, that was upping the engagement exponentially. It was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And Norm, I just wanted to get from your perspective, you've helped so many people implement their academies. What are some of the sort of more better success stories of any like tips that you give when people are actually starting to create and build out that content?
Yeah, I think that whole theme of enthusiasm really can translate through the camera and through your LMS as well. If people can tell if like you're not excited about the product or anything like that, it's the same reason why they tell reps to smile even though you're talking on the phone, right? Like it just translates through the content and what you're saying. But the other part, and that I've been telling actually a lot of clients and the ones who sort of take it in and bring it out in their own style and their own branding is get rid of all the academic baggage that comes with learning and courses and anything that you've brought in from the past. We think of quiz and, I start sweating when I hear the word quiz because I was not a great student. So if we can sort of start disassociating what kind of content and what sort of best practices we're giving without sort of the academic jargon and baggage that came from that, we're really going to be able to create courses that are really effective. I think something that Pete's team does really well is they have really, really short courses. You don't need an intro and a thesis and 3 paragraphs and a conclusion. Maybe you just need one activity that explains, the topic and then lets people move on with their day. And so that's, there's tons of, that list could go really, really deep, but just like high level, I always start all my implementations with talking about that. And it's been really successful so far.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's such great advice. I think more and more we understand that the shorter the content, the more likely someone is to listen to the whole thing. I think a few years ago, I had created just a very short weekly video series on Facebook for a company I used to work for. And I was looking at engagement. I was like, oh my God, our engagement is so high. And I realized that Facebook counts a view at 3 seconds. And I was just like, 3 seconds? That's all the credit we're giving people? And it's true. It's like the attention that someone's even willing, even if you stop your scroll and watch something, if someone gets 3 seconds in, that's an accomplishment. And so to have somebody sit for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and pay attention to what you're talking about, I mean, you're doing something really right. And so I think if you can get people to, and you said you're doing, after a short session, that's when you do the quiz and that's when you ask people a question about it. And Norm bringing in like I also was not a good student. So we'll bring that, collection of not great students to the table. The thought of a quiz just again makes me nervous. And even when you're taking like a self-regulated course that isn't going to really, no one's going to see it. I'm just like, oh my God, a quiz. But if you know and you're confident, like 2 minutes, like I can remember what someone said 2 minutes ago. I can't remember what someone said 45 minutes ago, nor do I have the attention span to fully pay attention to everything everybody's saying for 45 minutes. Except for all of you here today. I know you're going to remember every word we say.
I think another good tool in terms of retention that we figured out pretty quickly, and I mean, it's a very common tool in teaching, but right off the bat in the course, especially if that first 3 to 10 seconds is very important to somebody watching a video, is tell them exactly what they're going to learn in the next 2 minutes. And even if it's 3 bullet points really quick, just signs them up and lets them know what they're actually getting into. And then at the conclusion of it, remind them what they just learned too. You're basically giving the answers to the quiz in advance of them potentially taking that, but it's helpful and it helps, kind of really allow us to improve our content over time and make it a lot more consolidated and smart in the way that we present the information. So that was really helpful, developing a really quick agenda and then reminding at the end of your course that what you just learned.
Great. And so I'm just reading in the comments from Frederick. You talked about the courses being rewarding, and I think he wanted you to dive into that a little bit more, like sort of what works for you in creating rewards for people besides just like a $5 gift card. Like what's beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of different, there's obviously, if you have a specific budget for actual compensation, that's great. Not every company and team does. So we did give out $5 gift cards. Eventually that got a little crazy. But you can also reward people based on, let's say just like their knowledge and, like how much of a splash, in our case, a splash veteran they are. So over time, we have kind of like a Hall of Fame page that allows, people to actually see other people that have successfully used Splash, and there are different types of event pages and different campaigns that they've run, and featuring people through that has been great. And then within that kind of context, you're like, also, this person has completed 100% of the online courses. That's how they became a pro and became so efficient. If you're interested in becoming a pro like them, then you link right to the course or something like that. That helps kind of take people in a different route to get to the same amount of education that somebody in the past that's been successful has been. Any type of, if you can give out merch or anything, any kind of sponsored stuff, people love, all that stuff. So anything that your team can afford can be great from a monetary standpoint, but actually giving them recognition on social media or inside of your website is just as cool. People love to be loved.
Yeah.
Got another question. Love that. Another question. What's a better term to use in a quiz? I want each of you to answer this. You have one option. Norm, do you want to go first? What's the better way to call a quiz? Position it.
Oh man. Yeah. Knowledge check is absolutely the most popular among my clients. And that's just like, I don't think any of us have come up with a good one. I might let out my inner nerd here. So anyone who's used to play video games, I've seen a couple clients use something like checkpoint or save point or something like that, right? Because you're saving that knowledge by checking on if you know it. So I thought that was really clever, but I was also very on brand. I think you can use a variety of things. Going back to sort of my academic baggage one, right? Like test yourself isn't a great one, I don't think. Quiz, again, denotes something bigger. So something that's sort of like a checkpoint, a threshold, before we move on, let's check in or something like that, making that really interpersonal connection.
Oh man, Norm, you took all of them.
Sorry. I don't know what's right.
No, those are all good. We use checkpoint too when we're talking about it in the way that we present it. We also say tiers, like people like to build to certain tiers. So it's kind of, we call those tiers and levels and things like that to make it even more gamified. People just like to continue to progress. So any type of progress tracker that you can include in your content or just the way that you present your content is actually pretty key.
Yeah. Mark, I'd love to get your input here. Like what would you think about when having people check in or knowledge check, achievement unlocked, someone threw in there?
Yeah, like achievement unlocked is great. Kind of gamify it. I think it all comes down to like a few people mentioned this is like setting expectations, right? So we have a question about, hold on, I want to see the question. There's a question about the best way to market the courses, right? So Audrey has asked this question, right? Speaking about short attention spans, what's the best way to market the course, right? So, like I think quizzes can be, knowledge checks can be kind of confusing because is it in service of you trying to get a certificate? Is it in service of you trying to maintain some type of standard? Is it truly just a knowledge check to see if you've been paying attention enough and give you some feedback loop, right? Like to me, what it is, a good knowledge check, and I'm assuming Northpass does this, like gives you a feedback loop. So even if you get the answer right, it will give you context to say, here's why you got this right. Here's why this is the right answer. And here's maybe something else to think about. And if you got it wrong, here's why it's the wrong answer. We did this in the later days of HubSpot Academy. Initially, we just had like, multiple choice questions, fill in the blank, et cetera, but it wouldn't give you that feedback loop. But if it does give you that feedback loop, that's something that's, I think, really special. That's, again, different. It adds value to then the quiz taking process, right? So there's that as well. And how you market that would be around the students, right? So the biggest thing that we did at HubSpot Academy is create all of these customer testimonials, student stories, customer stories about the impact going through different HubSpot Academy content or education or certifications had on them. And then if you told people, hey, this certification, this quiz, or this class that includes quizzes had such a big impact on me, right? Then people, I think, it's less friction for them to maybe sign up. So my biggest recommendation is lean into the people that are going through your education and content and get them to be part of your marketing of it. Like I cannot stress this enough. Just like any good marketing, right? The customer is the best marketing these days. So I think it all is about setting expectations and then getting your customers to say, oh man, yeah, whatever you call it, quiz, knowledge check, whatever. That was such a great experience because it gave me additional context and insights into what I was learning and helped guide me. I think knowledge checks and quizzes are all about being a guide them to the desired outcome that you're trying to get them to.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely correct. And I think learning is, and especially with an online academy and learning, whether it's learning for a software, just learning some sort of product to get you from step 1 to step 2 is really, as the facilitator and as the person creating the content, it's really guiding them through, from point A to point B to point C to make sure that they're picking up everything that they need to pick up so that at the end of the day, they've gotten something from it and they're getting to the next point. And I think Norm brings up a good point. Like quizzes don't have to be hard. You can ask like a very obvious question, but it just reinforces what you had just said in a different way. And I think people learn in different ways. And that's what I think at Northpass talk about all the time is like, you have to give people content in so many different ways because we've grown so much understanding how people learn. Some people learn visually, some people learn audibly, some people like to read it. And so you got to give people a little bit of everything to get that. Oh, what is your favorite way to learn? practicing.
I mean, I knew this question was going to come up, so I set it up when you guys were talking. I knew this was going to come up. So I'm curious. Yeah, this is practicing, man. Right? By doing. This is no good for you folks. No offense. Like, Northpass, HubSpot Academy. It's like, why are we in business?
Yeah.
But this is I'm so excited about this answer because this is the thing we found at HubSpot. I cannot stress enough, if you have the ability to offer your product for free or as a free trial, and you can tie your learning to that free product experience, it's kind of game over. When we did this at HubSpot, not only did our pipeline and revenue and everything go through the roof, and there's a whole team now dedicated to working with the HubSpot Academy team, the free product team, to integrate learning and applying that learning in HubSpot's free products. That's when the magic happens. That is, so if you have the opportunity to do that, or you could sell your company on that idea, I'm happy to talk to you about after the fact. That's where you just nail it.
Yeah. Mark, can you share the results of the quiz? I don't know if.
Oh, yeah, the results are right in the quiz. Yeah, if you scroll down, you'll see them all, right? Like 38 votes practicing.
No, I don't think you shared it with. Can other people see it?
Yeah, everyone should be able to see it. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I cannot, unless I'm in the wrong section.
Oh, you can't see that? That's weird.
I think you need to click. Can you see that?
Could you guys see that? Pete, could you see that on the stage?
No, I couldn't see it.
Really? Try again. Can you guys see that now? No?
I can see the quiz. I can't see the results. So if you just
scroll, try scrolling down a little bit.
Yeah, scrolling all the way down.
No.
No, what I have to do? Maybe I have to close it. I'm sorry. I do have to close it. I got too excited.
Well, that brings up, Mark, to your point, something that I've found a lot, and just for my history, I came from the AE role, and the feedback that I was always given is stop caring about the customer so much. So it made sense to switch over to the customer side. But one thing that I think people come into their first LMS thinking is that it's going to replace, their entire support or documentation. And we have a lot of clients that are teaching really technical things, and I think it's important to remember that to give that variety of learning styles and type of content, that you don't have to get rid of your support docs. Some people are always going to want to just go back and read the article. But maybe as part of your article, you say, hey, reading not your thing. Maybe that's a little condescending, but something, you don't want to read, try to take this course, watch this video, and then send them into your academy. So I think just having those avenues open from your product and from your support docs and from your marketing tools to get into the academy will also drive those variety of learners, and not just, put your learners in a box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's also like, if you don't have the product, you could do live sessions like this.
Exactly.
Right. These are like for salespeople, even marketers, like role plays, group discussions, like anything that gets people practicing in a way that's just not on their own. We have this saying, I've said this for a long time: people who learn together grow together. It's hard to learn on your own because you can be highly motivated to learn on your own in many ways, right? So it's like, how can you get your prospects, your customers, your advocates to learn together, right? And that's where I think it's best done when you have a blend. We talked about the blend is so important, but also, if you don't have that ability to help someone practice, because just the way your product is set up, your services, getting people together as part of a community learning experience, I think is critical these days.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. That's why a few months ago, we really started on the Northpass side to do more live events, because obviously we're champions of creating an online academy and online courses. But we know, as creating a community and being able to talk with people who have been in your shoes before, and understanding getting together as a group and talking through subjects can really help people and get people past different hurdles. And just when people talk out loud, they say different things than if they're just like typing an email. And so it's really nice for us to be able to just have these really honest conversations about different subjects, and involve members of our community that I would never be able to just talk to. I wouldn't know who to talk to. I have like a list of customers that I can call and chat with. Like Pete, I was able to like very easily reach out to the Splash team and say, hey, I'd love for you to join us on this conversation. If you're not doing live events, and incorporating that into your learning in some capacity, you don't have those opportunities. And Mark, I'd love to just from from your perspective understand like where I'd love to hear from that hybrid perspective of like, how do you integrate virtual events like this into learning experiences that are either just like either online events or just courses, quizzes, things like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the first thing we have to recognize is like all the things we're talking about today. I think, unless Pete, like if you're doing something different, like let me know. I'd love to know. Like all of it is digital learning. We did do some stuff, and they still do it to this day at HubSpot around classroom learning. That's in person. Mm-hmm. They just brought it back again, but like pre-pandemic, it was still mostly digital, with the exception, right? But like now it's all like digital learning. So like to your question, it's around like how do you want to set up your digital learning experience? And actually, I want to just make sure we answer this. So I'm going to show it on stage. I hope you guys can see this. Maybe something's wrong with my settings, but like Jeff is looking at an on-demand option for learning for his customers, right? With it also has the ability to do exactly what you asked about, Ariele, right? Like, which is like, how do I do live as well? So I'm not the best person to answer this. Maybe one of you folks has some good recommendations for Jeff. And then we can go into this a bit more, but have any recommendations? Does Northpass do this?
Yeah, I can answer that. So, Jeff, this is actually a really great question and an important one, going back to those best practices to not necessarily have, written in stone early, but have a good understanding of how your customers will interact with your academy and having that early. And so one thing that we do is we provide learning paths that can combine both courses as well as instructor-led events or live events. But what you can often do as well is have most of your academy be on demand, sort of like in a big catalog, let people select whatever courses they want. And as you grow those events, you can pair them directly to those courses. And so they'll see an event based on their interest in that course, which would then prompt them to register and want to sign up for it. Or you can have the event be available to everyone. So I think the more prescriptive, right, if you're interested in course A, you should do event A is going to be sort of the most effective method. But creating an on-demand academy with sorts of live events associated with it is absolutely possible across most LMSs, I would think, but definitely at Northpass.
I actually miss the days of in-person education. We used to do a lot of different events, either in our office or at customers' offices that, 1 to 2 instructors would show up. We would basically guide you through the platform on their actual screens. There would be some interactive component where they would try it themselves. And it really kind of set up a nice learning experience, not only for the customer, but for us to see if our actual content was engaging, and seeing the actual user react in live time was really awesome. At Splash, we kind of have 4 different types of education. We have in-product education, which are like tool tips that you can click on throughout the product, powered by a software called Pendo, which I highly recommend. We also have our online courses, which anybody can take at their own speed at any time. We also do bi-monthly webinar series called Build It and They Will Come, where we have educators and customers actually join us during the call and kind of speak towards, an event that they've recently completed that was successful. We talk about how they actually created it. We do a little bit of a live demo. And then the last thing is these type of events that we're going to get back into is hopefully some type of hybrid event between the digital experience and the live experience being virtually the same for any type of attendee. But I don't think there's any bad answer. I think like any type of education is good education, and kind of goes back to one of our original points that every learner is different. So there's no like perfect setup for every single client or customer. Kind of have to work and be flexible and be on the spot about it.
Yeah, and to build off that and to kind of address Iris's question, which we can show on stage really quickly, it's like you kind of have to ask yourself this question: are we trying to create? There's 3, in my opinion, 3 things. Let me know what you think, Pete and Norm. Is it structured learning, unstructured learning, or cohort-based learning? It's kind of always in one of those. I mean, is there a fourth one? Is there a fourth? I mean,
that sounds about right.
So, and I think we've talked a lot less about cohort-based learning, but cohort-based learning, it's like when you go to like a class in college, right? For example, like, it's like I'm signing up, it starts on this day, it's like da. And it's, the best ones these days are flipping the classroom style, right? Et cetera. And like to your point, you could do, the really great ones would be a blend of all that, right? Some in person, right, some online, right, et cetera. But like cohort-based learning, you might want to ask people like, out of your entire audience, right? Like your prospects and customers, you'll probably see a pretty even distribution, but you might be surprised pending the topic you're asking them to learn about, right? Like, for example, I know for, HubSpot Academy, they're doing some cohort-based learning that's very tactical in nature on the sales side of things. And the only way they're going to get those people to really remember, understand, apply, and create, right, all the way up Bloom's taxonomy, is by doing a 6-week intensive cohort-based learning program. It's the only way. They've tried the other way. It doesn't work. So it goes back to like the subject you're talking about. Who is it? What's their level of investment? I think that's another key question people neglect to ask when someone's signing up for some type of learning experience. Or could you get that from like another source of data? Like maybe it's product usage. If someone's really using your product, getting them to learn might be easier. I'm saying might because it's not always the case, because a lot of times those people actually do like to learn by doing. So you have to, like you said, using Pendo or something in the product can really be beneficial. But if that person is also trying to, grow substantially, get to the next promotion, like, show off that they are the best of the best in this thing, because we're all, we all have an ego and we all have, some level of intrinsic motivation, then putting them or, asking them to maybe or suggesting they go through some type of, certification program could be awesome for the people that are using your product a lot, because number one, they're going to probably pass the test really easily, depending on how you do your assessments. And number two, that's going to create the community flywheel where they share that out and say like, I'm awesome, look at me, go that ego trap play. So it was kind of a long answer, but I just think you have to take a lot of these things into consideration over time as you kind of just experiment with things.
Yeah. And Mark, to your point, what sort of like supersedes those 3 or 4 categories is the idea of like synchronous or asynchronous learning. And to Iris's question, right, like cohort-based learning is really synchronous, is really the host or the owner of the LMS is really in a lot of control there. And so what you could do is you could set up a screen, and again, my knowledge might be limited towards Northpass and I'm biased, but you could set up a screen that has just 3 boxes and says, hey, what kind of learning do you want to do? And you can click visual, word heavy, or something else. And as you're going through your live event and the course at the same time, each person on each activity is in the same content, only looking at it in a different style. So one person is looking through the video while another person's reading, but they're consuming the same type of content. That can be really, really powerful in a cohort-based session.
Yeah, and I've been doing adjunct professor work, and years ago it was in person, and I do continuing ed, and recently, since February, I started working and I've done 2 semesters of an online-based cohort class. And it's so interesting to work in that way of trying to figure out how do you incorporate this. Really, it's like we're all doing it virtually online, but you're also doing it as a group. And the biggest challenge I had was when to figure out when to just let everybody just learn and read and watch the video, and then when to actually make sure that they were learning from each other as well. Because I think part of cohort-based learning isn't just that, oh, we're all doing it together, but you're interacting with, if there's 10 people in the course, that everybody's learning from each other. And so giving opportunities just to say, posting homework in a discussion, some of the answers would have like 6 or 7 or people out of the 10 involved in that one person's discussion. And there were so many learnings that came out of that. So I think it's really thinking about how do you structure, you have to think through each different type of learning experience to how to structure it for the highest amount of impact for each person as they're learning it. Obviously, like there's no point of having 10 people doing something at the same time if they're just going to be doing it parallel to each other. And even with, with on-demand learning, right? So just creating an online course and you go in and you take your course and whatever. There are so many ways as the person on the back end to take feedback and constantly be iterating and making it better and better and better. And that's one thing. We had a conversation with Courtney Sembler a little while ago from HubSpot Academy. And one of the things she said is like, when you're starting out, make sure that you're designating X amount of time to iterate and make it better and update courses so that you're constantly taking feedback and integrating it into the feedback loop and making your courses better. So it's really every person that takes a course makes it better.
Yeah.
And so we're really running out of time here. This was an amazing conversation, and I wish we could do another hour of this. We'll have to plan something. But I just want to thank Mark, Norm, Pete. I want to thank you for being here and for doing this all today, and for everybody that joined. We were answering questions throughout. If you have questions that we weren't able to answer during the event, we'll see it in the Q&A, and we can reach out to you afterwards. We'll make sure that you get answers to your questions. So thank you so much, and really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate the comments.